Roronoa Zoro is one of the most important characters in the history of One Piece, and throughout his journey he has never shown any interest in any character, at least romantically speaking, as he aims to fulfill his dream of becoming the greatest swordsman in the world because of his agreement and promise to Kuina so many years ago. Because of Zoro's dream, he avoided any relationship with anyone because he was solely focused on achieving this goal. But in the end, there is probably at least someone that Zoro can fall in love with and end up developing feelings for. So in today's video, we are going to talk about who Zoro can marry at the end of the story of One Piece, what evidence links these two characters, and how the relationship can actually happen. So my friends, as we know, Zoro was born in the East Blue. Now we don't know much about his parents or even other relatives that he may have, which makes his ancestry and origin a bit mysterious. The age of 8, Zoro trained at a dojo in Shimatsuki village, training to become strong enough to be able to defend himself without the need for anyone to take care of him, since he apparently lived alone and had no one else to depend on besides himself. Zoro abandoned all other desires except swordsmanship to achieve this life goal, and it was during the Baratia arc that he stated that he had decided that he would be the greatest swordsman in the world, so nothing else in the world mattered. This meant that he let go of any desires or ideas of living just like a normal person, or even ambitions just to complete this singular goal of becoming the greatest swordsman in the world, without even caring if it would cost him his life. Even as a child, Zoro was very strong, able to defeat most adults, but he was never able to defeat Kuina, the daughter of the dojo master, which left him very frustrated because he did not want to keep losing to a woman. And again, these are the thoughts of an 8-year-old boy. During a training session, Zoro met Kuina's grandfather, Shimatsuki Kozaburu, who gifted him with a pair of swords to help him practice, allowing the training to flow in a much better way for Zoro's fighting style. Zoro and Kuina had a great rivalry, and in the past it was said that they fought more than 2,000 times. And in all of these fights, Kuina always won against Zoro, but he still did not give up on facing her because he wanted to prove that he could be stronger than her. Although he improved tremendously in all of these duels, every time he lost, he would cry in frustration, telling Kuina about his dream of wanting to become the greatest swordsman in the world. Upon hearing this, Kuina told Zoro that she also had the dream of being the greatest swordsman in the world, saying that she shared the exact same dream, but knew that in the end she would never be able to achieve it because her father told her that girls could never be true sword masters and that their fighting potential would decrease as their bodies matured. Zoro gets angry with her attitude, but then realizes that she is giving up on her dream just because she is a woman, and even goes further to prove her completely wrong and yells at her because in every duel they had, she always beat him. So her skill had nothing to do with the fact that she was a woman, she was just better. Zoro continues saying that one day he will beat Kuina because she is the most skilled person he has ever met, and the fact that she is a woman does not change the fact that she is a great swordsman, completely recognizing and honoring Kuina's talent. That moment, the two made a promise that one of them would become the greatest swordsman in the world, regardless of the circumstances they faced during their journey. Either Zoro or Kuina would have to make this dream come true. The next day, Kuina suffered a fatal accident where she fell down the dojo stairs, causing her to lose her life after the fall, which left Zoro traumatized, creating a great feeling of anger and hatred in his heart for no longer having his rival to compete with. In addition to losing the only friend he had and the person who cared about him the most, Zoro was alone again. But when he realized that Kuina would never have the chance to fulfill her dreams, Zoro took it upon himself to make it happen for both of them. And so he went to her father, Koshiro, to ask for his sword and then began working on developing his three-sword style. With his three-sword style, he held a sword in each hand and then Kuina's sword between his teeth, and this unique fighting style was a way for him to become stronger and fight in a way that no other swordsman could. And in a way, Kuina would always be with him and would indeed help him on his journey to become the greatest swordsman in the world. Kuina might have been the first woman Zoro cared about, or even the first person, and this created a very deep bond between them. Although he was young and perhaps not fully able to understand his feelings beyond friendship and competitiveness towards her, he may have had his first crush, but he lost her tragically. But the memories of Kuina and the time they spent together still lingered in Zoro's mind, and after many years he still thought of her when he thought of his own goal of being the greatest swordsman in the world. And it was only when he met Tashigi that he rekindled this feeling he had in his heart, because Tashigi is very similar to Kuina, even her desire to become a great swordsman. Just like before, Kuina was to Zoro what Zoro is to Tashigi, great enemies but rivals, because Tashigi is after all part of the Marines, but she still admires Zoro's skill and sword technique. So far in the story, we have seen that Zoro has a better sword skill than Tashigi, being exactly like Kuina was to him when they were children, which makes Tashigi want to go out and become stronger so he can face him and take him down in the future. After Zoro perfected his three-sword technique, he became a bounty hunter and became the greatest swordsman in the world because bounty hunters are nothing more than people hired or at least commissioned by the world government to hunt down criminals. Even after many years, Zoro kept his promise in mind. He got his name after giving up being a pirate hunter and joining Luffy's crew, thus becoming a pirate. Zoro got his first opportunity to become, or at least test himself against, the greatest swordsman in the world when he met Mihawk, the greatest swordsman in the world today. Mihawk didn't target Zoro, but Zoro dared to stand in his way, challenging him to a duel. Although Zoro quickly lost to Mihawk, he earned his respect by saying that he would never lose again, making a promise to Luffy for himself and even in his heart to Kuina. Cause as I mentioned before, Wado Ikimonji represents Kuina to him and he intends to fulfill his dream and his promise to her. Early in the Straw Hat Pirates, Zoro ended up meeting Captain Tashigi, who is a marine officer serving under Vice Admiral Smoker at G5 base, and he realized that she was very similar to his old friend, which made him at least somewhat interested. Zoro and Tashigi haven't had any major interactions so far, but they have clashed from time to time and at least one of them may want to see the other again. So this could be setting up a major confrontation between them in the future. And as we think about it in our current story, we know that they are on Egghead Island and Tashigi is not far away at a military base. So with this proximity, this could set up an event where Zoro and Tashigi could not only clash swords but end up having some sort of encounter together. But it would be forbidden because she is a marine and he is a pirate, which could be a problem for Tashigi. One of the reasons why this might be a big problem for Tashigi is that she has always looked down on Zoro and even held a grudge against him, believing that he only uses his swords as a way to earn money by hunting bounties. And when she found out that he was a pirate, it was then that she challenged him to a proper fight. And when Zoro defeated her, she still refused to accept defeat unless he actually cut her. One of Tashigi's goals, being an absolutely crazy sword enthusiast, is to defeat Zoro in order to get the Wado Ikimonji, as she believes that such a renowned and beautiful blade should never be in the hands of a criminal. After the 2-year gap in which Tashigi and Zoro interacted again, she had a respectful understanding of how much he had grown during that time, and she also learned that she was wrong about him not attacking women after seeing him cut Monet when he was defending himself on Punk Hazard. This showed her that Zoro really wasn't who she thought he was, and she slowly developed an even deeper respect for him, and may even be able to create an even more affectionate relationship as we move towards the end of our One Piece story. Another character who has a certain kind of connection with Zoro and could become a great duo with him would be Nico Robin, because she is the Straw Hat who has something in common with him and is also a member of the crew, and that already bothers him less. When Robin joined the Straw Hat crew after the Arabasta arc, he did not trust her at first and thought that she might be hiding her true intentions. However, Zoro still respected her as a member of the crew and came to respect her even more, and then developed a true love, if not camaraderie, with her. Now the love I speak of is that common love among all the Straw Hats, not necessarily in the romantic sense, because we saw that despite his doubts, Zoro began to protect her and showed a willingness to protect her even when Robin was in danger, like when Akiji threatened Robin. Zoro, along with Luffy and Sanji, went to rescue him, putting themselves on the front line to protect her during the Sky P arc when Enel brutally attacked Robin. Zoro became even more angry and attacked him. And finally, after the Enies Lobby arc, Zoro built complete trust in Robin and then fully accepted her as a friend, as did the rest of the crew, and even Robin herself is always willing to protect Zoro. Robin caught Zoro after he was thrown into the air by the oars during the Thriller bar and even tried to save him, also preventing him from dying due to the water pressure when he tried to leave the ship on his way to fish on an island. After time has passed, the two still get along very well and are often seen together prioritizing each other's needs. And even during the Zou arc, Zoro had a proud smile on his face when Robin said that she was not afraid of being kidnapped because she knew her friends would protect her. These moments show that our two characters have a great bond and a great friendship, and in the future we don't know where this could go and if it could evolve into something much more than what we've seen so far. A recently new or at least renewed opportunity is Bonnie, and she could also be a good option for Zoro. They met when Zoro was silently walking towards a world noble, while everyone around him bowed before him. When Charlo saw that Zoro was not bowing, he considered this action disrespectful, so he pointed a pistol in Zoro's direction, and Zoro was about to attack in response and knock out the world noble. But Bonnie managed to restrain him, making the world noble think that he had taken Zoro's life. As soon as the world noble left, Thinking that he had just shot Zoro, Bonnie looked at him and began criticizing him, saying that he was reckless in front of a world noble. Zoro and Bonnie did not exactly agree and did not see each other much after that. But recently in the manga we saw that she reappeared in the story and she and Zoro may end up reconnecting. But whether Bonnie was looking out for Zoro in a tactical sense or maybe something a little more, we'll have to wait and see how the story develops. Because it could just be something where Bonnie is a member of the crew and they respect each other, or it could be something else. But there is another character I want to talk about who might be the one you've all been waiting to hear about. Now, the next character we're going to talk about is someone who actually had the opportunity to make a romantic connection with Zoro. And that character, of course, is Hiyori, because we've seen that Zoro has already risked his life to save her from Orochi, a ninja, and even fought Killer. And he's shown to not only fight and protect her, but he seems to care about her well-being. And when he protected her from Killer, he was doing so despite having already fought Onimaru on Ringo's bridge. Hiyori has also shown a certain level of comfort when she's by Zoro's side and has even tended to his wounds after the fight and slept on his chest during a cold night and even cried on his chest when Yasui was publicly executed. And let's also not forget that Hiyori gave Zoro a major upgrade. Hiyori respectfully asked him to return her to Ryuma's resting place because it was a national treasure, and in return she offered him her only inheritance from her father, the sword Enma, as a form of respect because she understood that Zoro needed 3 swords. So as our story progresses, perhaps there is already some magic and grows between our princess and the mossy-haired swordsman. Another person that Zoro had interactions with and mostly over time was Perona, but it's unclear if we would consider this a friendship or something like that, because Perona sort of saved Zoro and took him to the castle after treating his injuries, but her bandages didn't look good because she didn't have the necessary medical skills to properly care for them. But during the time skip, we also see moments where Perona tends to Zoro's injuries again after he finished his training with Mihawk, as well as helping Zoro return to the Sabati archipelago and later helping him find his crew before they had to escape from the Marines. So there might be a bit of a possibility with our ghostly goth queen, but there is one other possibility that I want to mention before we wrap up our video for today. The last person I would like to mention is, of course, our navigator, Nami. We have seen Nami and Zoro constantly arguing over the smallest and most petty things, and they are often seen as a form of comic relief in very serious situations. And it is because they have known each other for longer and he interacts with her frequently that most of their conversations are fights or arguments in front of the rest of the crew. Even though they may have different ideologies or goals, Zoro has complete trust in Nami and her ability to navigate the ship, just as she has complete trust in Zoro's fighting ability and acknowledges his incredible skill with a sword. And the two have helped each other through difficult times, no matter what it took to save each other's lives. Think back to Arlong Park and how Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy fought to free Nami from Arlong's reign. So while Zoro may act like he doesn't care about Nami, his actions show quite the opposite and that he truly does care about her. And a good example of this would be when Nami fell ill after being bitten in Little Garden. Zoro is seen at Nami's bedside and even offers to sail the ship instead of Nami to help her rest, despite his terrible sense of direction. Another example happened before the Straw Hats entered the upper courtyard of Sky P, when Zoro discovered that Nami had been swallowed by Nola, or that Sky Master, the giant snake that lived in the upper courtyard of Sky P. Zoro shouted, telling her to wait a moment because he would be guarding her soup, hoping against hope that she was still alive, and by this showing his desire for Nami to survive and rescue her after he was done fighting. Even after the time skip, Zoro still acts as Nami's bodyguard, and we saw in Punk Hazard when Monet went after Nami. Zoro appears and cuts Monet in half to save Nami's life, and we saw where she also cares deeply for Zoro. When Zoro was recovering after his encounter with Kuma, Nami was one of the 2 Straw Hats who stood by his bedside, showing that she cared deeply for her friend. So there you have it, my friends. These are the women that Zoro may end up having a relationship with at the end of our One Piece story. And for now, I would love to know what you think about it.